Hello, everybody. I'm Barb Diver, and this is my neighbor, friend, and fellow advocate and former person I reported to, Robyn Keltenbeck. And we're going to work you through today on doing a hook, line, and sinker with more than one person in the meeting. This will be with two people, and the more people you have, the more you divide it up. But this one will just give you an example of how you can divide things up. So we're going to be talking to our Senator Dolan and making up some bill numbers as we go, but we'll have all that information for you on Cancer Action Day, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. Take it away, Robyn.
All right. Good afternoon, Senator Dolan. My name is Robyn, and I live in Broadview Heights, Ohio. As one of your constituents, I'm here today in Columbus to advocate for several key pieces of legislation that will be coming before you pretty soon. I volunteer because I have been very strongly impacted by cancer across the board in my family, and I'm going to tell you about some of those stories and why cancer legislation is so important to me. Before I do so, I'd like to introduce you to some of the other volunteers for the American Cancer Society, including my good friend, Barb Diver.
Hi, Senator. We've met a few times. Maybe you remember me from Relay last year. But I am here today because I am a 32-year breast cancer survivor, and I've lost both my parents to cancer, which has made me a very strong advocate, like Robyn, in the fight against cancer. Robyn will bring you in with our first issue.
All right, Senator Dolan. So this first ask is very important to me, and it has to do with something that I personally have been impacted by and think about every single solitary day of my life. If I'm not mistaken, your birthday is January 15th. And if I were to ask you what day of the week was January 15th in, let's say 2020, could you tell me? What about 2009 or 2018 or maybe even this year? I can tell you with 100% certainty that I will forever remember that December 18th, 2018 was a Tuesday. It's fairly warm for mid-December. It was partly sunny. And the reason that information will forever be stuck in my memory is because that is the very last day that my entire family stood together in a room. It happened to be a hospital room. It was the day that we said goodbye to my father after battling small cell carcinoma as a result of years and years and years of cigarette smoking. Every year, it's estimated that 20,200 Ohioans die from cigarette smoking. In 2018, my father was one of those people. It is proven that children who grow up with smokers are more likely to pick up the nasty, disgusting habit. I was one of those statistics. In fact, 3 of the 4 children in my family became smokers, and I every day fear for what might be brewing beneath the surface, just like my father's lung cancer. In fact, smoking not only causes lung cancer, but a whole host of other health-related conditions, which is estimated to cost Ohio $6.56 billion in direct health care costs, including $1.85 billion in Medicaid costs annually. The way that we can reduce that statistic is by preventing children from picking up smoking in the first place. So we're here to ask you to support an increase of funding for tobacco prevention and cessation programs to $20 million annually. Do we have your support?
At this point, we hope he says yes. Senator, this is the second thing that we'd like to talk to you about today, is the breast and cervical cancer program. As I mentioned before, I am a survivor of breast cancer, and my only reason why I'm sitting here today is the fact that my breast cancer was caught very early as stage 1. Back in 1991, when I was diagnosed, the norm was to get your baseline mammogram before you were 35. So 2 days before my 34th birthday, just to be safe, I went and got my baseline mammogram. The day before my 34th birthday, my doctor called and said, "You have a problem with your mammogram. You need to see a cancer surgeon today." That's how important it is for early detection, because that call and that mammogram, if I had waited till I was 50 for first mammogram, which was what the age was at that time, I wouldn't be sitting here. My cancer was so aggressive that I had 6 months to find it in before I would have been terminally ill. So, in Ohio, there are so many women who are uninsured or underinsured that don't have the ability to have that early detection like I did, who may find out later and have harder roads to go. Currently, the BCCP program serves 7,000 women, which is just a fraction of what it needs to serve. So we're asking that that fraction not get any smaller, and that we maintain the current funding in fiscal year 24 of $1.1 million, and then in 25 of $1.2 million. Help us save women's lives, because breast cancer is the most common cancer in women in Ohio. Can you support this maintaining the funding? Thank you, Senator. The third thing that we wanted to bring up to you today was biomarker testing. What biomarker testing does is it helps your oncologist determine exactly what type of chemotherapy will work for your cancer by taking some of the cancer cells and going down and finding the markers in them. Now, currently, that's not something that is covered by most insurance companies in Ohio. In fact, oncologists in 2021 survey said that 66% of them said that the cost is a barrier to doing biomarker testing because the patient does not have the insurance coverage. My father-in-law in 2022 was diagnosed with lymphoma, and fortunately for him, he lives in Illinois, which was the first state to cover biomarker testing in public and private insurance companies. And his cancer was able to be tested, and he got the right chemotherapy the first time. After 6 months, he was cancer-free. At age 85, if he had to go through a trial of different chemos to find the right combination, I don't know, he might not be here today, or he might have gone through a lot worse than he did. So fortunately, he lives in Illinois, and he had that ability to get that testing done and have it covered. Will you help us here in Ohio with Senate Bill, whatever, and support biomarker testing here in Ohio so that all of Ohioans can have the same benefit, and it will help reduce medical costs and save lives?
Awesome. The other thing and this is the final thing that we're here to talk to you about, should sound familiar to you, because this is something that we talked with you about last year when we were down at the State House. We were so optimistic that Ohio was going to get it right, because as a proud Buckeye, I am so excited about the advancements in cancer treatment that is really coming out of our scientists and researchers. So last year, we introduced a copay accumulator bill, which was directly designed to help cancer patients and really anybody who takes prescription medications afford those that have a high price point. I've tried the hardest that I could to prevent taking any sort of medications, but now as a middle-aged woman, I rely on several medications for my health. And those medications they add up. Now, imagine if there was no generic alternative because it's a brand new cancer treatment and the cost of that medication is, let's say, $15,000 a month or $1,500 every quarter. As somebody who has committed my entire life to working in the nonprofit sector, I wouldn't be able to afford that medication. So if I were to have a cancer diagnosis and rely on one of these really high expense drugs, I would have to turn it down, which means that my likelihood of surviving that diagnosis wouldn't be as great. Many patients rely on copay assistance from charitable organizations or other third-party copay assistance coupons or packages to help offset the cost of those prescription medications. Unfortunately, many insurance plans don't apply the value of these assistance programs to the patient's deductible or out-of-pocket maximum, which oftentimes leaves the patient with a surprise and unaffordable bill at the end of the year. I was so excited last year when this bill passed unanimously out of the House and was making its way over to you in the Senate. Unfortunately, it stalled, and here we are again, hoping that Ohio can join the ranks of 16 other states that have passed similar legislation. Copay assistance is a matter of fact for Ohioans that rely on prescription medications. And we're hoping that you would support Senate Bill or House Bill X, Y, and Z when it passes out of the House and makes its way over to the Senate. Do we have your support on copay legislator bill?
And then after he says yes to all of our wonderful asks, we would then say thank him very much for his time and ask to get a picture before we leave. Because if we don't have a picture, as we all know on ACS Canned, it didn't happen. Thank you for your time today.